All right, we're live. This is Live with Bottleneck. I'm Jamie J, and we're going to help you stop the bottleneck in your business today. So we're going to go ahead and jump into this right away. I'm going to play our little intro there, and we're going to be talking with a pretty amazing human being, Adam Rosensweig, and we're going to be talking about emotional intelligence, its role in life and business. So without any further ado, let's get this crack-a-lackin'. I just wanted to say crack-a-lackin'. Hello there, my name is Jamie J. I'm the CEO and founder of Bottleneck Distant Assistance. This is Live with Bottleneck, where we help you stop the bottleneck in your business. And I'm really excited today to be talking with Adam Rosensweig. And Adam Rosensweig is the COO of RR&D Inc. We're going to be talking about emotional intelligence, what its role is in life and what its role is in business. And why, oh why, can Adam help you stop the bottleneck in your business? Well, let me tell you. So he's a native Floridian. Adam is Chief Operating Officer at RR&D. He's certified in and responsible for administering and interpreting the EQI 2.0 and EQ 360. We'll go into all of that stuff. And Adam started RR&D in response to his wholehearted belief in and support of the English Motivational Enhancement Method. After personally experiencing the program's life-changing effects, he was moved to share this valuable knowledge with others, and Adam works closely with Dr. English and values her as both coworkers and trusted friend. When he's not running the company, excuse me there, and collaborating with his team, Adam loves playing strategy games to keep his mind sharp. So without any further ado, please allow me to welcome Adam. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh man, this is exciting. You and I had a really nice conversation a week or two ago. It seems like, man, does time fly? And I am, as you know, a big fan of culture. Many people know a big fan of culture. And understanding what emotional intelligence is paramount to any organization's or solo operations existence, in my humble opinion. I would love to learn why that is from you, the expert. And I wonder, before we really jump into all the numbers and all that stuff that people may not understand, maybe you can kind of define that. But first, give us a little idea of who you are, your background, and kind of what you're up to.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So like my bio said, I'm a native Floridian. I grew up in South Florida, around the Fort Lauderdale area. I moved to Central Florida in Ocala when I was 15. I've lived here ever since. And some years ago, I was introduced to the motivational enhancement method, like I again was mentioned in the bio. As you know, you've had other guests on that have talked about their life story, and the short version of what happened with me was I was having my own sort of life crisis. I was having a lot of trouble in my life, and I came into contact with Dr. English, who happens to live in St. Augustine, Florida. I went through the program, and I I'm sorry?
Beautiful spot, St. Augustine.
Oh, it's gorgeous, gorgeous. But I went there, and my wife and I went through her program, and it was my first introduction to having life skills development and coaching and other things that really helped me get a handle on my life and the things that were troubling me, because I was basically at that point I was feeling like my life was starting to buckle. And I had a lot of anger. I had a lot of really depression. Looking back, I'm actually quite surprised I wasn't on medication, to be quite honest with you. But I was having a lot of trouble, and I felt things caving in around me. And I'm a religious person, so I made it a matter of prayer. And not long after that, I came across Dr. English, who I went through her program, and I really got to know myself better, and I got to overcome a lot of my own personal demons that I was dealing with. Dropped a lot of anger, dropped a lot of depression, dropped a lot of anxiety, and it really made my life so much better, the quality of my life with my marriage, my family. I have a 9-year-old boy right now. He's 9 now, but obviously he was younger then. And I saw all these effects that it had on me. And at the time, I was, I come from a construction background, so that's what I was doing back then. And all these changes I was making, I saw all these side effects that was happening in my life. I was just getting better. I had more courage. I had more energy. I wasn't getting sick as much. And I finally had the courage to realize, hey, I want to do something different. And over this course of time, I had become really good friends with Dr. English. And I called her up one day and I said, you know what? I really love what I learned from you. What can I do to help spread this around to people? Because I saw the amazing effect that it had on my life. And she said, well, start a business. I'll work with you. And you can promote me and we can do seminars and other training programs. I said, sounds good to me. I hadn't the first clue about how to do that, but I didn't care. I wanted to do it so badly. And that was 6 years ago, 5 years ago, something along those lines. And she actually coached me into getting certified in the emotional intelligence assessment that I use right now. That's a really great complement to her program. So since that point, she and I have been a really great team, and we've been working together ever since. I've learned a lot from her. Here I am talking to you. It's been quite the journey, and it's been a lot of fun in the process.
That's fantastic. So to me, this emotional intelligence has popped up. And by the way, from time to time, if you're watching this and you have any questions or comments for Adam, please, by all means, go ahead and ask away. Don't be shy. If you are seeing this in a replay and you want to ask Adam a question or get connected with him, just type it in the chat there and I'll do my best to get Adam connected with you. And by the way, Amy Goodman says, grateful to hear your story, Adam. So,
hey, Amy, good to see you.
Yeah, it's really cool seeing her on here. So, emotional intelligence, the way I understand it, it's a term that's been thrown around loosely, and the way I understand it is it's the ability to kind of identify and manage your own emotions and others as well, to kind of help them through processes. And I wonder what your definition of emotional intelligence is, and can you maybe break that down a little bit further so that you might help other people understand what emotional intelligence could mean to them?
Sure, I'd be happy to. The definition that you use is very is a good one. There is no universal definition. The way I like to describe it, well, first of all, is to help people understand what it's not. We don't want to confuse it with other things, because it's not IQ. IQ is its own category that has to do with cognitive intelligence, mathematics, vocabulary, things, spatial, all that kind of head knowledge that you would get from university or anything like that, and that's generally set as an individual. Emotional intelligence is its own category that has to do, like you said, understanding our own emotions, what type of emotion we're feeling, the thoughts that are triggering that emotion, how that's affecting our behavior, how that affects other people. And it's not the same as like a vocational assessment. Sometimes you take an assessment that tells you, oh, you'd make a great nurse, or you would make a great firefighter, or you'd be great in marketing. That's a separate thing also. It's not a personality assessment. Personality is more, it describes you as more about what you are in terms of personality, like sense of humor and that kind of thing. Emotional intelligence is something that's universal. We all feel sadness. We all feel happiness. We all feel fear. We all feel anxiety. We all feel these emotions that can happen to anybody. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what race. It doesn't matter what gender. It doesn't make no difference. So it's what we do with that emotional data that makes the difference in our performance at work and with our friendships and our marriage and things like that, because that's the foundation of our success. It all starts there. we cannot put ourselves in a position to use our IQ. I'm not saying that IQ is unimportant. IQ is important. But we don't get to use our IQ if we're not using our EQ properly, because we don't set ourselves up. It's like a tool. I mean, our EQ is our tool. We could have the greatest tool in the world, but if we're not...
Just to avoid any kind of misunderstanding from anybody that's not familiar with this, is emotional quotient, same as intelligent quotient, that means emotional intelligence. Is that correct?
Yeah, emotional quotient is emotional intelligence. It's two terms for basically the same thing.
Okay. You didn't mean to interrupt your storytelling there, but just wanted to...
Okay. That's okay. That was about the end of my description anyway.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so what are some tips that you've used in your own life to improve your emotional intelligence, or what are some things that you can share with others that might be advantageous to any of us who are experiencing challenges, or maybe we snap too quickly, or maybe we hold grudges too long, or maybe we find us at extreme highs and extreme lows, and it ends up causing some turmoil. And I say that with an underlying tone, in that we're talking about, you were talking about how you can use this in life and in work. I just want to reiterate again, I'm not a big fan of work-life balance. I'm a fan of life balance. And if you can address emotional intelligence from that perspective, that's what I'm hoping we can do. And I wonder if you might be able to help us identify some of those triggers to enhance our overall life.
Certainly. I have some statistics I was going to share as well while I talk about this subject. So the beginning of emotional intelligence is our self-awareness. What am I? Because we can have emotions and not notice them. They're happening anyway. But to bring them up to a conscious level and realize that I'm feeling something. So one of the things that I recommend to people is to pay attention to your emotions. It doesn't have to be any kind of major, in-depth thing. Just start paying attention. And so throughout the day, maybe at least 3 times a day, have a notebook. Have a notebook that's dedicated to your emotions. And just log what you're feeling in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. What am I feeling? Am I feeling energetic? Am I feeling stressed? And pay attention to the physical cues too. Do I have tense shoulders? Are my palms sweaty? Do I have butterflies in my stomach? I mean, even before coming on to this program, I was starting to get the butterflies in the belly because, I'm going on a podcast. It can be a little bit of intimidating if I let it. So I had to make a conscious decision to, first of all, acknowledge that that's how I was feeling and change the direction of my thinking, because all of our feelings begin with our thoughts. And that leads to how we behave. And how we behave affects our success or failure. So as we pay attention to our feelings throughout, and do this for a week or two at least, look for patterns. Am I energetic in the morning but feel extra stressed in the afternoon and exhausted by the evening? Well, what's happening? What are the circumstances? As we write down which emotions that we're feeling, whether or not they're positive and comfortable, whether they're neutral, if they're painful or uncomfortable, what is happening at that moment? Take 5 minutes when we do this and reflect, or we can reflect back later as we're writing this down. Have like a journal. And what was I thinking about? What was happening? Did somebody just say something to me? Did I have an expectation that wasn't fulfilled? Did somebody not do something? Sometimes it's an absence of something that can cause a certain emotion. So when we start noticing how we're feeling and looking at the patterns, number one, we can start identifying what the triggers are. In fact, I was talking to one individual who was doing this, and this person noticed that they had a higher stress level when they started reading their emails. So they were because they were starting to feel overwhelmed. It was starting to get to them as they started to feel that burden of I have so much to do. I have all this thing to do. So they started identifying what happened, and that allowed them to alter their frame of mind. And
Interesting.
because it's not just about the trigger. We can change our trigger, but we can also change our response to it. What is our thinking? And this has a huge impact. And I agree with you that it's all about the individual. This separation of work and life, it's not separated. You can't. They're intertwined. And so when we develop these skills, not only are we benefited in the business world, we're benefited at home because it's all the same. You know, people say leave work at home. I don't believe that's the case. You can't do that. You can't. That's all. If we're emotionally burdened, if we have anxiety because of something in our personal life, it's going to affect us at work.
Yep.
And culture can only do so much. Culture is awesome. It's two sides of the same coin. We can create the atmosphere in an organization that promotes positive emotions and emotions that will benefit the workforce, but that stays at work. And when somebody goes home, if they have a separate atmosphere, if they have a different circumstance, what can they do? Well, if they develop their emotional intelligence skills, then they can navigate that situation when they're at home and at work.
So you make a really good point here, and I'll pop this up here again. Amy said our emotional intelligence is the key to relationship self-awareness and the ability to have room, excuse me, for expansion and innovation, such as an important concept. And she goes on to say, beautifully put, our physiology impacts our psychology and emotionality. I love that she put that in there. It's a nice little stamp, exclamation point on what you just said. One of the things that I find challenging is you're right before this, I mean, I just did this last week, and it's 737 episodes I've done on podcasting. So I've grown to be kind of comfortable with the uncomfortable nature, but I still, before I get on, I want to make sure that I show up, right? As soon as we're done, it's almost like, and I may go out and get a water or something like that, and I'll see my wife and I'll be like, hey, what's going on? And I won't maybe have the same level of enthusiasm because this is fun for me. And I want to maintain that throughout the day. So what are some things you can write down, habits and things, but maybe I'm answering my own question. When I walk out of here, I should walk out with the same level of enthusiasm when I see her and say, hey, I just had a great conversation. And I do that from time to time, but not all the time. And we're human, right? We're going to experience ups and downs a little bit, but it would be nice to figure out ways to kind of trigger positivity. Do you have any tips for doing that?
I do. Well, one of the things that can be done is to take a negative phrase and to kind of to train our mind to think positively. Take a negative phrase and reword it on paper. Reword it in such a way that it's a positive. And you could take a series of them. If anybody wants a particular website, I don't remember it off the top of my head, otherwise it's it. There's a particular website you can go to. It has these negative phrases that are actually parody. They're so negative they're laughable. That's kind of the point of the website. And you can take those phrases and rearrange the statements so that they're in a positive way. And what that does is that helps reorient the mind to think optimistically. And what that will do is once you get that under your belt and you do it enough, then you can start really trying to do it in your real life. Because when we start feeling negatively, when we start feeling down, there are certain statements we're saying to ourselves. This is bad in such a way. I can't do this. This isn't going to work out because of this. There's certain negative statements we're saying to ourselves. That's where self-awareness comes into play, where we can identify what it is, what our self-talk is. And if we can identify what those negative statements are that we're saying to ourselves, we can actually put it on paper and do the same thing. Rearrange it into a positive statement and continually do that, practice it. Because what we're doing is we're helping our mind automatically take a positive or optimistic view of a situation. And that doesn't mean, and the key to positivity, the key to optimism, it doesn't mean ignoring negative things that are happening in real life. There are certain nasty negative things that are real that we can't avoid. So this isn't about putting on rose-colored glasses, but it's about acknowledging what's really happening, but then looking ahead with optimism and saying what could be great about the future. So if we're in a situation where we're high energy and we come out of it and we're not necessarily, it's not unusual to have our emotions do this up and down. But how do we get it back up if we do go down? What was it about that experience that was so energizing? If we can really pinpoint that, maybe we can recreate it and just keep riding that wave, keep it in our mind.
Glenda says, I have to work for Bottleneck. I get to work for Bottleneck.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Instead of saying maybe I am so tired or I'm so exhausted, maybe I could say I need to get some rest.
That's good. That's good. And that's the other thing, that expression, I am, we want to be careful about that statement. Because when we use the words I am, we're identifying with whatever it is we're saying. So if I say I am tired, we're telling our mind to identify with that. But if we say I feel tired or I have lower energy, if I have something, that means I can get rid of it rather than I am. Because if I am something, it's part of me. So our words matter. And when we say them out loud and we put them on paper, we really have to pay attention. Because I try to avoid saying things like I am sick. I don't like to say I am sick. I have an illness. Because it's just better. It's better that way. And also in conversation, if we want to keep it positive, a lot of times what people don't realize is we will, if we're like, for example, if we're trying to counsel somebody or give them feedback, we'll try to start with a compliment. That's usually a good idea, right? And that starts out positive. But if we say, Jamie, you did this great and this great, but, or we tell our kids, I love you, but, that word but destroys everything that came before it. So it neutralizes it. So everything that comes after is what people are going to focus on. So if we switch out that word, Jamie, I think you did awesome on this, and I think this could be better. We can say, little Johnny or little Jane, I love you so much, and I don't like how you're behaving right now. Little changes in wording maintain a more positive atmosphere in conversation. So that's another little tidbit.
That's brilliant. Yeah, be mindful of using I am, because that insinuates that it's part of you. Instead, I have insinuates that it's temporary and it's not permanent.
Exactly. And just to show, do you mind if I share a few statistics about how EQ affects performance in the business world?
Yeah.
Because I wrote down some notes from, and if anybody who's listening wants some of this information, I can send it to you. But this has to do with doctors. And, I hate the word but. But there are some statistics that has to do with doctors and their effectiveness at hospitals. This, as much as the medical field is a business, so they have to deal with patient outcomes, they have to deal with malpractice lawsuits and things like that. There was some studies that were conducted where it said that according to the Journal of the American Medical Association, 40% of patients who unexpectedly returned after an initial primary care visit had been misdiagnosed. And almost 80% of the misdiagnoses were tied to problems in doctor-patient communication. 40% of the people who were diagnosed and were released came back because they weren't given the right treatment, and 80% of the reason was because they didn't communicate properly with the doctor. That is an example of how EQ makes the difference between success or failure in performance, because what happened was that communication has to do with EQ. It's not about how good of a doctor you are. It's about how, because communication is a connection between two people emotionally. And so what happened was the communication didn't happen, and they aimed their IQ in the wrong direction, which is where the misdiagnosis came from. So just by having communication training and maybe some systems done that enhance communication in a hospital, that number could go down by 80%, potentially, of misdiagnoses. Wow. And in fact, Also, the American Journal of Medicine did a study where they compared patient satisfaction with doctors, and they found they compared patient satisfaction with unsolicited complaints and risk management episodes, and they split the doctors into three categories: high satisfaction, middle, and low. And the middle level of satisfaction from patients, they had a 26% higher rate of malpractice lawsuits.
Wow.
The ones in the bottom, lower third, they had 110% higher rate of malpractice lawsuits. This costs, well, number one, the biggest problem is the fact that it hurts patients. People's lives are affected. People can die as a result of these errors and as a result of these misdiagnoses. From the financial side of it, it costs billions of dollars with lawsuits. And so this has nothing to do with being an MD. It has everything to do with communication, it has everything to do with empathy, connecting with the patient, and being able to communicate properly.
Amy said thank you, but she's got to run.
No problem, Amy. See you later.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So the point being, that happens in the medical field. That happens in other parts of business too. If we don't treat our employees in an emotionally intelligent manner, the retention rate goes up. It helps with retention, it helps with recruitment, with customer service, it enhances that. So there's a lot of damage business-wise that can be done if we don't integrate emotionally intelligent behavior into our business. In fact, one of the examples that I looked at is Chick-fil-A, the fast food giant. They have a retention rate of 96%, I believe it was. They keep almost all the people because of the way they treat their employees. They treat them like human beings. They treat their employees like they treat their customers. And they are a high bar that a lot of restaurants should study. I mean, they're known for their customer service, for that retention. It makes a huge difference. And they sell a chicken sandwich. We're one of the biggest fast food restaurants in the business. And the statistic was that for your average cost turnover for one person in the restaurant business is something along the lines of $2,000 a person. To look for, hire, and then lose, or look for, hire, train, and then lose, and then start the process over again with just one person. With fast food, it might be a little bit lower, but even if it's half that, $1,000 a person times 100, 1,000, 10,000 employees across the country, that adds up to a lot of money lost from retention problems.
Yeah, I did some research. Obviously, this is kind of what I do for a living, so I really looked into this. And I saw a Gartner research study that said it costs, on average, in the U.S., $4,129 to hire somebody. It costs up to 9 months' salary to fire somebody. That's not small money, and depending on how high the salary level is, I mean, that's a massive impact. That's nearly a year's time to recoup and get that. That's why I think it's so important to make sure that hiring right. And a good way of doing that is studying this and getting lessons and learning from people like you on how you can really identify, quantify, and manage your own emotions. And what we do here at Bottleneck, I'd love to hear your feedback on this. We give everybody the right to we don't give. We should say we empower everybody with the idea that they can make their own decisions as long as they follow these three criteria. Number one, is it good for the company? Number two, is it good for the team? And then, and only then, is it good for the client? I want to underline that, we really appreciate our clients. They're a very important aspect of our business. But if the company's not healthy, how can we take care of our clients? And healthy meaning more than just financial. I mean, emotionally, financially, all of that. If the company is not healthy, how can we possibly expect our team to take care of our clientele if they're not being taken care of? So that is a really nice kind of 3-step overview, a foundation of how we empower others on our team to make their own decisions. And we've been really blessed with the outcomes of that. I'd love if you could break that down. If you have any other options or ideas or any add-ons to that, I'd love to hear them, because I think it would help a lot of people out.
For sure. See, the assessment that I use, the EQI 2.0, it stands for Emotional Quotient Inventory 2.0. It's the second version. One of the things that it measures, because that's what's great about it, is it takes that idea of emotional intelligence and pulls it out of the sky and actually puts it into a result. And it measures an individual's EQ levels so that they can then have a place to start from a development sense. It's also used in pre-screening as a pre-screening tool for new hires. But one of the things that it measures is an EQ skill called independence. Independence is a person's independence. It's a person's ability to be self-directed. It's their ability to make their own decisions, stand on their own 2 feet, be able to be autonomous, and when it's a healthy level, they can make their own decisions, take responsibility for themselves, but at the same time, be willing to take advice from others. And the standard that you were just talking about encourages that. Because somebody who has responsibility for their own job is going to have emotional investment in it. And therefore, they're going to be more motivated to do a good job because it's theirs. They're not just told what to do. And so that would be, people feel better about themselves when they have the ability to make their own choices and feel good about when they're productive and make good decisions and then learn. It becomes more than a job. It becomes a learning experience. It becomes a way that they can be better people. Because now it's that term. I don't know if you've ever heard the term entrepreneur.
No.
Entrepreneur. It's basically somebody who has an entrepreneurial mindset but works within an organization.
Oh, okay.
Like a company. So they have that drive, and then they're given a job that allows them to use that skill that they have, so they feel good. And so you would want to hire people who have that ability, and who if somebody is on the lower end of that skill level, they're going to have a really hard time making their own decisions, and they would operate a lot better in a situation where they're told what to do and they just follow the instructions, and that's it. That's not good or bad. That's not a criticism. It's just a different scenario that somebody would want to operate in. So on a hiring level, any company that wants that kind of a person that you're talking about, where they would be able to make their own choices, they would want to hire on that basis. They would be able to look at the assessment and say, yeah, this person can do that. And if not, then they can be trained. I know I'm kind of going off a little bit on another direction from what you were talking about, but I love the fact that you're encouraging that in the people who work for you, because it adds a lot to the person's confidence too. Because as they learn and as they grow and they're allowed to make mistakes, you don't want to make a mistake that bankrupts the company, but if they're allowed a little rope, a little bit of leeway, you can make a choice. And they're given the guidelines, like those 3 guidelines that you said. Is it good? What were they again? Is it good for the company? Is it good for
the team?
The team.
And then is it good for the client?
Yeah, so you're giving them that boundary. You can do whatever you want in that sandbox. You can be within those borders, but you make the decisions and you take responsibility for what you're doing. I think that's great. And in fact, to your point about the clients being important, but the employees are important too. Years ago, I did a training called CERT, Community Emergency Response Team. It had to do with natural disasters. And when the authorities are not there, if a hurricane smashes through a state or a tornado comes through, sometimes the authorities are not there in the first 24 to 72 hours. So what do? Well, some in the community are given this training where they can kind of substitute for paramedics and firefighters and things like that until they can get there. And one of the bit of training that we were told was, make sure you get your rest. Make sure you take care of you, because if you don't take care of you, you cannot take care of somebody that you're trying to help. And the same is true with what you were just talking about. If we don't take care of our employees, we don't take care of ourselves and negotiate what we need, we'll never be able to take care of our clients. And then we'll end up losing them because we don't have the time or the energy, or we make mistakes like a doctor might make a mistake in surgery. So that's my take on it.
I love it. I love it. Well, what's the best way for someone to reach out to you and get in touch with you if they want to learn more?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn. Just my name, Adam Rosensweig, right there on LinkedIn. You can search for me. Tell me that you saw me on this interview, and I'll connect with most anybody. We can have a chat. I can tell you more. I mean, I have a few free giveaways I can give out. If anybody wants to learn more about self-awareness or communication, things like that, I'd be happy to chat with anybody.
Last thing, what is a good identifier to let someone know, hey, it's a good time to reach out to Adam?
What's a good identifier? I'm sorry, I don't quite understand the question.
Where is someone in their life journey where they could reach out to you and doing what you do could really help them?
If they're feeling stuck and they're not sure what to do, either in their personal life or in business, because the same principles apply to either one. And to reiterate, I team up with Dr. English. Her and I are a team. So if somebody were to hire me, if they are having issues, either personally, whatever those issues are, it depends on what they are. They will work with that, and Dr. English and myself will work with the client. If it's a business and you're having pain points, toxicity, communication breakdown, just any kind of people issues that are taking place. If you're in pain, contact me. And feeling stuck and looking for a way out, let's have a chat, and we can see what we can do.
That's fantastic. Anything else you'd like to say before we wrap today?
Just that I really appreciate being here. I've watched a lot of your episodes. I really appreciate you, Jamie. You're a man after my heart. I love the fact that you are such a big-hearted yourself. I love the people you had on. You're attracting like-minded people who are entrepreneurs, who are out there trying to change the world, but also are human, right? and care about others. And we need more of that in the business world, and the more that we find each other, the better. So I really appreciate being here, and I appreciate what you do.
Oh, man, Adam, thank you so much. Yeah, that's fantastic. And thank you for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge with us today. Hopefully this is a nice little reminder for people that are experiencing some challenges in their life. And if so, they can reach out to you.
That'd be great.
Do you have just a second to hold on while I wrap up then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, perfect. Hold on one quick second and I'll wrap us up. Thanks, Adam.
Sounds good.
All right. I've been talking today with Adam, and he is the COO of RR&D Inc. We've been talking about emotional intelligence, its role in life and in business. I hope you got a lot out of this conversation. If you're experiencing some pain right now, you're kind of feeling stuck, you're in the mud, reach out to Adam. He's got some free resources, some free tools, and he'll even talk to you and just kind of figure out where you're going, and maybe he can help you move further. Maybe something he says right away clicks with you. You never know. But you'd never know until you reach out and actually chat with him. So I would highly encourage you reaching out to Adam. He's the COO of RR&D Inc. And you can connect with him on LinkedIn. That's a platform that he's really, really available on, and he has a pretty strong presence there. So you can look at connecting with Adam Rosensweig. And I wish you all the best in your ventures. If you're watching this in the replay again, post your comments here. I'd love to be able to send them and share them with Adam there. He's a fantastic person. So want to let you know, we've done hundreds of episodes here on Live with Bottleneck, and you can go learn more about that at Bottleneck.Online/TV. Basically, our TV is YouTube, so you can go to Bottleneck.Online/BTV and see some of our best episodes. You You can also subscribe to it, and we'll show you that in the outro here coming up soon. We have a lot of fun and just enjoy ourselves there. Coming up next to your earbuds, the emotional side of divorce. We're going to be talking with Lori Wood. She's a certified divorce coach, divorce specialist at Lori D. Wood. We're going to be talking with her Tuesday, July 6th at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be a good conversation. I've talked with Lori several times, and she is an amazing human being. So hopefully you got a lot out of today. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Jamie J, CEO and founder of Bottleneck Distant Assistance. Our special guest today, again, was Adam Rosensweig, at COO of RR&D Inc., where we talked about emotional intelligence, its role in life and business. And one more thing, remember to create your own ripple. We'll talk to you again soon.